welcome back to another episode of Ask a Property Manager. I'm here with Andrew Schultz of Realty Edge, who's an associate broker and manages about 120 doors here in the Western New York area. How you doing, Andrew?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm enjoying life today. Slept well last night, which seems like a rare occurrence these days. So I'm doing pretty good.
Nice.
So we got a question here from Courtney, and I'll read this to you, and then we can kind of get your thoughts. So Courtney said, when a tenant moves out and a new one moves in, I'm paying to have the locks rekeyed. When a roommate moves out and leaves other roommates still on the lease, and the roommates remaining ask for the locks to be rekeyed, who should pay for that, the landlord or tenant? So I think we got a couple things that we can discuss here. The question she's asking about who should pay, but maybe we could start off by talking about rekeying locks and maybe something that landlords could be doing to make that process easier for themselves.
Sure. So, all right, let's start with her question about who pays for the locks.
Okay.
So when a tenant moves out and a unit turns over, I automatically change the locks just as a matter of course. The specific locks that we use, well, we'll get into locks in a second. When a tenant requests a lock change, tenant pays for the lock change is the way we're set up. And if a tenant locks themselves out of their apartment, we have a clause in our lease that allows us to charge them to come out and unlock the door for them.
Okay.
And the reason we do that's, it's one of those things. There's so many things in our lease that are there because of it's occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them. We had somebody who locked themselves out on Christmas Day. I was an hour and a half away. I had to drive to my office to get the spare key for their place, then drive another half hour to them to unlock the door, and then finally 2 hours back to, my holiday celebration. So that's why we have that clause in the lease.
Okay.
And it's, we charge, I want to say we're at $55 if they call us between 9 and 5. We'll just send somebody over and unlock it, but we add a $55 charge to their rent ledger.
Mm-hmm.
If it's after hours or on a weekend, I think we charge $75, and then if it's a holiday, we charge $95.
Okay.
And that's still way cheaper than calling a locksmith in this area to come and let you into your apartment. So that's the reason that we have it in there.
And that kind of reminds me of just having a late fee instituted for late rent. It's kind of the same thing where you're just conditioning them to, remember your keys, because you're going to have to pay for this if you don't.
Right, exactly. Well, and the other thing that we've been doing to essentially stop us from having these lockouts is we put deadbolts only with passage knobs below.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no keyway on the actual knob, just the deadbolt.
Mm-hmm.
So the tenant can't leave the house without their key because they can't lock the door.
Yep.
So essentially the only time we get a lockout is if a tenant just plain old lost their keys.
Okay.
So that's cut down on the number of lockouts drastically. As far as the type of locks that we're using, I saw that somebody in the group there, I believe his name was Brian, had mentioned that he's using the Kwikset 990s, which is the single cylinder with the keyway that you put a key in and you can rekey it in like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I like those locks. We use those locks a lot. We use a little bit different version. We use it's called the Kwikset 816. It's actually a double cylinder lock.
Yeah, and I'll put an image of that on the screen right now.
Yeah, so I don't have one with me, but you can throw an image up on the screen there. And essentially that top keyway, it's a little black keyway, that operates off of a different style of key. It's still a Kwikset key, but I think it's a KW2 or a KW3 as opposed to a KW1. And this is getting a little technical, but that's a master key for us. So that one key will open, we set every house up so that every house is on its own individual master. So that keyway, only the landlord has that key, and our maintenance crews have it and stuff like that. But that's how we control landlord access. The bottom keyway is the tenant keyway. That opens off your standard KW1. You probably have about 15 of them on your keychain right now. And it's very simple to change either one of those. They both have the smart key technology so that you can reprogram them. But if the tenant discovers the fact that there's a second cylinder there, they don't have the ability to ram their key into it and try to change it because it's a different keyway. The key won't fit. So that's why we use those. It's kind of gives you the ability to rekey quickly, and it gives you the ability to always have master access to your property. So that's why we use those locks particularly. They're a little more expensive. I think they're like $45. But once you install it, your cost for rekeying a property is maybe $2 for a spare to have a key cut or something like that. Everybody has a pile of extra keys laying around, and all you have to do is just get a copy of it made, and now you have 2 keys and you're good to go.
So the advantage of this is, compared to the single cylinder Kwikset, is that you can kind of essentially sync all the locks in that apartment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, if people want to check that out, that's on the screen there. And actually, the one I'm looking at says it's $34.97 if you want to go with the
Oh, okay.
brass.
So they're actually down in price a little bit, and they
Yeah.
have them in all different styles and finishes too.
Yep. Yep. Very cool. Well, yeah, I always appreciate these videos because you have that weird insight knowledge of KW1, KW2 keys that no person should know, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right.
Specific knowledge, right?
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time, Andrew, and looking forward to the next video with you.
Sounds good.
Take care.